Where the hell are you?
Change of plans. You know where Mirror Peak is? It's a big mountain north of where you are. You follow the path from the mine, you can't miss it. There's a lookout point there. I'll be waiting.
I'm through being jerked around by
You
you.
want to see your wife alive? Because if you do, you better watch what you say to me. Do we understand each other?
I want to talk to Alice.
Yeah, and I want the manuscript. Don't keep me waiting, Wake.
Hello? Hello! Ah! I'm gonna kill him! I had to get to Mirror Peak.
Well, that was nice and pleasant.
It was close. Maybe closer than ever before.
So, we make it here, after countless delays and being held up, who knows how many times. And the kidnapper's not even here. So now we have to go over to Mirror Peak, we have to get through the mines first, just to meet this kidnapper. It's making it a real pain to get there, but since it's really just a straight shot to Mirror Peak at this point, it's going to be the longest segment, probably, maybe not for too long. But since there's a lot of collectibles to get, we're going to have to be stopping every few minutes, really, to go get stuff. But other than that, it's just a straight shot. And unfortunately, none of them were close enough to either of those exploding barrels, whatever. Canisters, really. So that didn't help. And for some reason, this guy dropped down and completely forgot where I was for a second. Unfortunately, his buddy over here didn't forget. And if you ever find yourself in a pretty enclosed area with poltergeist objects being thrown at you, you can just hide behind really anything solid. And can't really ever touch you. But really, once the objects kind of get thrown at you, physics can get a little crazy. Like right there. It's only ever on the Nightmare difficulty where that's an issue to watch out for, but yeah, stuff can go a little haywire sometimes. Whatever is going on in there does not sound pleasant. And a good strategy is to just kind of stay up here and wait for one of them to bounce into your view, right like that. But don't drop down just yet, because there is another object down there, as I completely ignored. But yeah, again, if you just hide around a corner, it'll sort of freak out whenever it hits something and never really get close to you. So even if you drop down right into something like that, it's okay.
The only way to reach the hillside ahead was to go through the building. I had to find a way to avoid electrocution.
And the only way to avoid electrocution is to follow these power lines and turn off whatever is electrifying the fence. And you can run across here without using this Jeep, but it is so much more convenient to use the headlights and to ram the Taken than it is to just walk across and use your gun. And with that last guy taken care of, we can go shut off the electricity. And then we can just have a clear drive right back, because nothing could possibly go wrong when the lights are off, right? Right? And if your car isn't too beat up, you can take it all the way back, but instead of just taken this time, there's going to be a ton of poltergeist objects being thrown at you. So there's a chance that your car can be destroyed. But as far as I'm aware, you don't really take any damage if the car gets destroyed. You just kind of get kicked out of it. But yeah, as you can see, there's just a ton of stuff being thrown at you. And you can take the time to knock out each of these guys if you want, but it's a lot easier to just ram your way through and then get out of the car and just run. Just gotta make sure some of the bigger guys are dead, so if you get out, they can't hurt you. That's just a little insurance. And then we're over the fence. And even if they're still alive on the other side of that fence, they really don't try to bother you at all. And it's a good idea to just try to lure them all together so you can get as many as possible with the flashbang. And it looks like that got them all. So now you can just stock up and head out. And this is really the last sort of building like this. We'll be leaving the whole, whatever, lumberyard, mine yard, whatever this is supposed to be after this building. We'll be running through stuff like an abandoned town to get to the mine shaft so we can get to Mirror's Peak. So it's not a really long distance to go, but there's a lot of stopping and starting. Kind of like in this building. We should just be heading straight through, but there's always got to be something. And this red chair is just... what is this, like the 4th time we've seen it now? And after that manuscript page, we can head out. And into the woods. Great.
There was no way the flashbang grenades were Standard Power Company equipment.
Well, it's no excuse not to use them then, huh? This whole episode is probably my least favorite because it's so unnecessarily long and the locations you go to aren't really memorable. On repeated playthroughs of this game, I usually forget what happens in this chapter. Almost every other one I can remember pretty clearly what happens, but this one is just a blank slate for me. I almost have to relearn it every single time. But these guys come in 2 waves. The second wave has a lot more of the big guys, so if you used up all your flashbangs, you might be in some trouble. or even if you do use flashbangs, you might be in trouble. And what sucks about trying to hit them is if you miss, you'll have to reload at least some point, because they take all 6 shots. Unless you have a more powerful weapon, of course. But I'm also trying not to use as many of the flashbangs, since they will get you out of a tight spot very quickly, and definitely later on in this episode. But for now, the whole woods segment for this one is okay. I don't think it's too great. I think it gets better once we get to the mines, which aren't too far off, but we still have a way to go. And there's a chest hidden deep in this kind of small mine shaft. But it's not like it's a trap. None of these have been a trap so far, right? Oh. Maybe not. So in the chest you get 2 flashbangs, and you kind of have to use one to make it back out safely. So it's not a total loss, but it definitely sucks that you have to use it. And you also have to be careful getting to this thermos because it is very easy to fall through the boards. Thankfully I didn't do it while recording this, but I've gotten pretty close on a couple occasions.
I had no real plan. I was going to give the kidnapper all the manuscript pages I had for Alice. If that wasn't enough, I'd hold him at gunpoint and make him talk.
And hold him up with a pump-action shotgun. This is a bit like the shotgun and the hunting rifle put together, except that it's not as powerful as either of them. It works in the same way as the shotgun, but you get a lot more shots to make in one go. But instead of the hunting rifle being able to take out people with one shot, this takes about 2 or 3 depending on the enemy. But you don't have to reload nearly as many times as the regular shotgun. I don't think I like it nearly as much as the other two. I think my hunting rifle might be my favorite because it has range and it kills most things in one shot except for the bigger guys. So while we're being chased, it's a good idea to try to go after this thermos in this clearly secluded cabin. And I always think that there's another guy out there, because you can't always see them all. But may have gotten him in this case. Or not. Thankfully, this game is pretty forgiving on this difficulty. In Nightmare, if you get surrounded by even 2 of the smaller guys, since they hit 2 or 3 times before you can even react, it's pretty deadly pretty quickly. But with the regular enemies that just have like pipes and crowbars, they're never really a problem. It's the bigger guys you need to watch out for. So this is going to be a problem if you wait around. You can just sort of get rid of a couple and stun them and then run up the hill to the safe haven, but there's a good chance you're going to be caught at the same time. So it's easier to just dispatch as many as you can, and then make your way up. It's definitely a better strategy when you have more attention on ammo in the Nightmare difficulty to just run to as many safe havens as possible to avoid conflicts such as that.
The dark presence was moving ahead of me in the same direction I was going. A cold feeling settled itself in the pit of my stomach. Was it going for Alice?
I think that the cold feeling would be the mass graves that you're walking by, Alan. Because that's kind of creepy.
The graveyard shift may cause cancer.
So here we have my least favorite enemies in the entire game. Not because they're hard, but because they take forever to hit. Like other enemies like this will just kind of sit there and wait as you get rid of the darkness with a flashlight, but these guys are going around so quickly. They're like the mini bosses from before, but sometimes there will be more than one, and it's in an incredible pain. And right like that, just trying to get them to stay still for long enough for you to actually do any noticeable damage to them is a total pain. But if you're not careful, and you're kind of focusing on maybe some other enemies that are around them, these guys will try to sneak up behind you, and they do attack you if you kind of let them get close. And when they attack, they hurt. But once you get the darkness off them, and the fact that you can then damage them really makes them less of a pain. But there are a couple segments where there's more than one of them, and they are a complete pain in the ass. But thankfully that one is dispatched pretty easily. It's nicer when you have better flashlights. If you kind of have the most basic one, it can take quite a while.
The place was dead, a ghost town. Had been for decades, maybe a century.
So there's nowhere to really hide except back here, and just sort of hope that the car doesn't hit you. And it is possible to just kind of leave the car where it is since it's so far away and kind of behind that light pole that you can just run ahead, but it's never really a good idea to chance it. I've also had the car fall off this bridge multiple times, and it can never really get back up. So once that happens, you're pretty much safe. So this is probably the most eerie location in maybe the whole game. It's not creepy, this game is never creepy, but it's sort of eerie how it's a ghost town and that, you know, you walk through a graveyard to get here. There's a sign telling you about all the people who died in the mines and you have to go through the mines, but I mean, it sets a nice atmosphere, but it's never spooky. And using the same strategy as before, you just kind of want to hide behind these posts, because then these, what are these, refrigerators? Ovens, maybe? Can never really get close to you. And it definitely helps when this next set of objects, including the tractor here, try to get up on you. That's not even the closest thing you get before the end of this episode. Definitely before the end of the game. There's still a ways to go. But with those taken care of, we can finally move on. Not quite to the mines, because that would be too easy, but we're getting there. Slowly. And like I was saying, this one throws a whole sort of engine car of a train at you. And you don't have to get rid of it, but you'll see in a bit why it's sort of necessary to get rid of it. This is one of those objects where you have to use a flare or a flashbang or aim your flashlight directly at it for it to work. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. But before we can get to what we need to get to, we gotta get this thermos out back. And in here we have a key for opening up the building that was right next to this train. And that's why it's a good idea to get the train gone, because you have to spend a little bit of time trying to unlock this door. But just a little.
Anything outside of riding is a struggle. I feel ill. I managed to make my way downstairs. There's a shoebox filled with books and papers by Thomas Zane. It's very hard to focus, but I managed to read some of it. He's a poet, and a good one. He writes of muses and creators summoning fabulous things from a magic lake, using his powers to shape the world of a realm of gods and dreams and demons, dark things that wait for a chance to slip through, wearing the flesh of men as disguise. Zane writes about himself, his girlfriend being taken over by a dark presence, about growing scared of the lake. Zane believes it's a mirror to the gaping void of darkness above, where some Lovecraftian presence lurks. I crawl back upstairs. I'll borrow these things for my story. They ring true. They fit.
Well, that at least sounds familiar to what's been happening to us, since, you know, it's a pretty good summary of exactly what has happened, actually. So let's pick up this hunting rifle, and we can head out. Yeah, so let's not go that way and head up this ladder, because just sort of over this area we finally will get to those mines, but the darkness has one more trick it's got to play first. And it's not a fun trick.
The kidnapper had sent me a text. The message was full of spelling errors and insults. It was telling me to hurry up.
Wait, kidnappers send texts now? You might as well send him one back, just fixing all his grammar, so he feels a bit more inclined to, give you a fucking phone call. He does have your wife, after all. I think you deserve a bit more than a shitty text. It's like a fucking teenager.
Birds.
Yup. Birds. Always the best. Especially since here it's kind of a weird platforming section, and it can be pretty easy to just sort of fall off. So you have to watch where you're going and watch the birds at the same time, and if you don't watch one or the other, it can end pretty poorly. Well, after all of that, not so much with the birds, thankfully. That was a pretty quick section, pretty nice and clean. We've made it to the mines, and it's pretty calm in here. It's kind of weird, but let's just keep going. Wait, what was that? That sounds a lot like Alice. I wonder if it's coming from, like, down here.
Without warning, the headache stabbed at my brain.
Did the headache have a knife? Wait, when did you have a headache? Have you had a headache the whole time, Alan? Okay, this mine is kind of creepy.
Alice?
losing it. I gotta get out of here.
You certainly are, and you certainly should. So that was really all that was down here. It was maybe not a neat little flashback, but just sort of him going crazy. So now we get to run all the way back out. It's pretty good. This is one of the times where I really wish Alan didn't run out of stamina so quickly and have such a long build-up time. I mean, he's no Olympic runner for sure, but even the normal person gets a little bit more out of their run than that. And this doesn't look anything like an arena, so I think we're safe to just let our guard down. This game tricked me again.
All accidents could be prevented.
It's a good word of advice, but let's not make any accidents. Just like that. It always seems whenever you get ambushed like that it's going to be a bit more in terms of difficulty, enemy count, whatever, but it never becomes that overwhelming. And for some reason, someone left a thermos in an abandoned mine shaft. But then again, we also found a bunch of manuscript pages, as if someone had been in here.
I'd have to make my way up this mine shaft in order to go on. Maybe the machinery could help me with that.
Also, wait, if this is an abandoned mine shaft, why are all these lights on? Why does this elevator still work? What is going on? Thankfully, though, this isn't really something to call a puzzle, since you never really have to think too hard about it. You just sort of move the elevator up, get to the next switch, move the elevator up, and continue until you're done. And even then, it's not that many times. So we'll just kind of sit back and watch this puzzle unfold. And with that, we're done with that little puzzle. Nothing too hard. It was nice and easy. And as sort of quickly and abruptly we kind of landed in the mines, we're out of them. That didn't take too long at all. We're right by Mirror Peak. There it is right there. So we don't have much longer to go. But if we head up these stairs, we have a couple of flares we can pick up. And sort of at the top of this, I don't know what to call it, a lookout maybe? It sort of seems what it might be used for. There's a manuscript page. And also if you get up here, there's a neat little focus prompt that kind of gives you a nice little panoramic shot of the whole area. It doesn't do anything more than that, I think it looks pretty cool. We have no need for ladders in this game, so you can just jump right down. But fall damage is a little hard to gauge in this game. Like anything that would sort of like break your ankles in real life would be enough to probably kill Alan. But there's no need to test it. And now that we're back outside, the birds have returned. And it looks like we've got a cable car ride, so those are probably connected. Just gotta start up this generator. Eventually. Now we just have to wait for it to slowly get over here.
Great. Another cable car. Just great.
Yep. And with all this ammo and flare stuff and batteries that we're getting, it's gonna be quite the ride. Especially given how fucking slowly this thing is going. So slow. And you're really going to be hit. There is no avoiding it unless you just constantly have flares out. Or you're using a flare gun, but it's not really a good idea to waste all of your precious ammo right here. So just sort of have a flare at the ready whenever possible. Well, the birds are gone, so that's good news. But it looks like the trees are attacking, so that's great. Well, that should have ended a lot worse than it did. But at least we have a welcoming crew here to see us through. Well, that wasn't really much of a surprise. I mean, what else could there possibly be?
Shit.
Shit is right. On your first playthrough, you notice that the game doesn't really have any jump scares, so when something like that happens and it catches you completely off guard, it's pretty shocking. And I tend to forget that happens every single time. But at least we're on the other side, so we can keep moving forward. So, after that amazing cable ride, there's sort of a break in the action up here. You can go check out that smoldering house to the right for a weapon, but I've sort of hoarded up on so much stuff for an area that's coming up soon that I don't really need to. And they only throw just 3 really basic enemies at you, and it feels like there should have been more, because it's not that big of an area either, so this is really it. And it's so easy to run past these guys towards that safe haven that it's just sort of inconvenient than anything. But we are getting pretty close to where we want to be, because that sign on the other end of that safe haven is for Cauldron Lake, which is supposed to be right below Mirror Peak. So it's a popular recreational area for local residents. Shouldn't they, more than anyone else, know that it was a volcano that erupted as recent as the 1970s? It's not really a good place to go take the kids. But so far, so good on this rickety old bridge. Well, not anymore. The best thing to do is to just head forward and try not to take out the guy that spawns behind you. Unless you've got something like a flare gun. That always works. And the reason you don't necessarily want to take out the guy behind you if you don't have something that'll instantly kill him is these guys will just keep throwing stuff at you. And it's not a good distraction when you're trying to take off a guy and you can't really move. So it's best to get off the bridge as soon as possible and then deal with everyone. But before we can go forward, there is a thermos hiding right behind this rock. You can sort of see it from the bridge, so it's not really that hidden. But it looks like there's also a chest nearby. So now that we've picked up even more flare gun ammo, we can move forward. I really hope the kidnapper appreciates all of the manuscript pages that we've gone out of our way to go find. Because it's been quite a journey for some of them. And so we finally made it to really the last area of this episode. And if you don't know what you're in for, it can kind of be a nasty surprise. But it looks like someone's already been here and just went all sorts of crazy all over the wall. Someone's really obsessed with Tom. Or they really hate Tom. Looks like there are two different messages being written. But let's get away from all the crazy and try to get through this house. I mean, we do have a kidnapper to meet. Still haven't forgotten that. But it's pretty quiet. It's not so quiet, so let's get out of here before anything happens. At least we're on the roof now. All we have to do is kind of get to the other side and we should be good. We just need to drop down and get back in the house. So here's what I was saving up all my, heavy gun ammo and all my flares and flashbangs. Is you kind of get surrounded by about 10 different guys, so you want to be able to knock them all out as quickly as possible. Because if they start to gang up on you, it's pretty much game over. Thankfully, the hunting rifle will make quick work of most of them. Just 2 shots for the big guys, but it's hardly anything at this point. And that takes care of the last of them. So we can just get right on out of here. So if we just jump down off of here, we can go around and get the last thermos of this episode. It's just hiding right here behind the gate. It's not the last collectible. There's one sort of along the path. Well, directly along the path, so we won't miss that one.
I could see Cauldron Lake. I thought I could make out the spot where the island and the cabin had been. There was a light near it. It had to be a boat.
Wait, who's on the lake? Is the kidnapper?
I was close now. I had to get there fast. I dreaded what I would find.
Yeah, that can't be good.
Wait! Are you? Wait!
Hey, I'm here! I'm coming!
No! Get away! I'm sorry. Please, lady. The boss didn't know who he was messing with. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. We don't have his wife. We don't know where she is. She's probably drowned. We just said we had her to make him play ball. You see? To get him writing for us. Please.